Welcome everyone to theScore Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Boone, the lead fantasy analyst at theScore, and today's episode is presented by Head & Shoulders. Offense for great hair, defense against flakes.
Offense for great hair.
Defense against flakes.
Head.
Shoulders.
Okay, on today's show, we're going to be previewing Week 15, and I know the stakes seem incredibly high. It's the fantasy semifinals, but also on today's show, we're going to try to help give you some perspective on things because my guests today, they aren't just fantasy analysts. They're fantasy analysts working towards a great cause. I've been on their podcast before, the Sleeper Wire show. I've also competed in their charity Pro-Am the last 2 seasons. It's Hussein Shabazz. You might know him as Prophet Hus. Not only is he part of that Sleeper Wire show, but he's also a moderator and an analyst at the Sleeper app. You can find him on Twitter at Sleeper Wire Hus. I'm also happy to be joined by his co-host, who's also an analyst at the Sleeper app, Professor Chris, and he's on Twitter at Prof_Chris SW. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us. Chris is actually kind of the host. I'm kind of the co-host. I think.
So we have to be very specific.
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I mean, his,
all right,
his
all right.
Yeah, if we
face
could
is
do
kind
this
of the
whole
face.
intro over, that'd be
But no, I mean, if we had to be super specific, hugging the guy like a koala bear when I first met him. Yeah,
Nice.
he's the face of the thing. Handsome guy, Professor Chris.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here. I think your story's so interesting. We had Scott Fish on a few weeks back. He has his fantasy charity, Fantasy Cares. What I love that Scott does, though, he always encourages everyone in all fantasy leagues, take a portion of your league fees and put it to not just his charity, to any charity.
Right.
It's a great idea. For you guys, there's a very personal element to this, though, as well. Why don't you fill everybody in on your backstory, how you guys got started with what you're doing now, and how people can help?
Hus, I'll let you take this one away because you've been there a little bit longer than I have.
Well, yeah, I am co-founder of the company. And yeah, we brought Chris along and just has been amazing, but I'm already digressing to Chris because he's my bae. I like to talk about him, But no, we're Sleeper Wire 501c3. We focused pretty much all of our energy when we do a podcast. Anything that we're doing, it's centered around chronic Lyme disease. As of right now, our main thing is kind of helping one of our brothers who kind of started this thing along with us, Rob. He has a GoFundMe at Rob JR. Sorry, shameless. Well, it's not a shameless plug at all because he really needs any and every bit. It's guys basically like living with the flu all the time, but it's a cause really close to our hearts. Obviously, we've been doing this for about 4 years, and we just try to get our word out there through the podcast, and also try to get guys that obviously you love, like Justin, the host here. We have all types of hosts, a co-host on the show, guest. It's a great cause, and we do also do work on a sleeper app as well. We work closely with them as well. So it's a special thing, this fantasy community here. So we're happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, you guys would probably see basically any post from Sleeper that gets pushed as an alert is either by Livy or Prophet Hus. It's like they're the two guys who push it. And as moderators, they get the privilege of, determining what gets pushed and everything like that. I'm more on the analyst side of it. So I don't have to deal with people, like the trolls and everything like that, which is much better in my opinion. But
it's nice for you.
Hus put all this perfectly, it's for the treatment and prevention of chronic Lyme disease. That's what, the business, that podcast, I guess I could say business because we are an IRS registered charity, is focused around getting people the treatment that they need, treatment and meds that they require that they can't get on their own.
Right. That insurance may not cover.
Yep.
So,
Well, I think it's awesome that you guys are doing that. I mean, it's so easy for us to get caught up in our own stories, our own lives, our own fantasy teams, even all that sort of stuff. And I don't know that everybody realizes just what an impact they can have on other people's situations. And it doesn't take much. So please, everyone out there, consider helping out the cause. In return, this week, we're going to try to help you out by getting you ready for week 15, getting you ready for those fantasy semifinals. And I want to start off by looking at a specific offense versus defense matchup here. The Rams offense on the road against the Cowboys defense. On the Rams side, it's been a really up and down year for them. I mean, Jared Goff seems to be able to take advantage of those weaker opponents, especially when he's at home. But in tougher spots, he often has been falling apart. Maybe because of that, Sean McVay has finally started to lean more on Todd Gurley. Gurley's got at least 20 touches in 3 of his last 4 games. And the offense has kind of shifted. Cooper Kupp playing less. Robert Woods has emerged as the number 1 wideout there now. He's a better blocker in the running game. You also see Josh Reynolds playing a little bit more. He's also a better blocker in the running game. Now they're on the road in Dallas against a Cowboys defense that started the year off playing teams pretty tight, but as of late, not so much. Since their Week 8 bye, they really haven't been the same defense. They just got torched by Mitch Trubisky. I mean, anyone that watched that game last week, Mitch Trubisky just lit them up, right? And it's Mitch Trubisky. Similar situation maybe to Jared Goff. So that leaves this matchup pretty uncertain. And it's a matchup for fantasy owners where there are a lot of fantasy weapons in that game that you could take advantage of or maybe shy away from. So, I'll go to you first. How do you expect this Rams offense to look against the Cowboys this week?
I mean, it's as you allude to and a lot of what you said, Goff has been kind of meh all year. His splits have been evident of it. He's had 3 games where on the road, I guess and 4 of them were startable at home. He had 19 against New Orleans, 20.7 against Tampa, 22 against Cincinnati. And 16, if you call that a good game. But yeah, Dallas, I don't know. It's going to be Dallas has actually kind of given up a lot too. So I think it's a good game that they could kind of get back on pace. So they're not that scary of a defense. So I think you can rely on Goff to kind of give you around that kind of 18 to 20 area. I think he's startable. The offense should get back on track. I think, as you alluded to again, Sean McVay, he's going to lean on the run. It's worked out for him so far. Kupp, obviously, he's going to be utilized in that red zone. And Woods, who knew? I mean, Woods, I thought he was just going to get in the love because possibly something happened personal on his end, and they were just starting to feature him a little bit. But, you brought up a great point. He's looking like he's their number 1 receiver. He's actually leading the league in yardage the past 3 weeks with 333 yards. So with the past 3 games. So, yeah, the offense is starting to turn around. It's something that you can start to feel good about in fantasy, especially while we're in our, this is the championship week. So this means a lot for this confidence.
And that's how I'm looking at it. It is that, they have played a little bit better. And I think when they can establish the run, it helps the entire offense, obviously. But it's also that the Cowboys defense hasn't been as good. They've given up top 10 quarterback performances to 4 of the last 5 quarterbacks that they've gone up against. They've given up at least 85 yards from scrimmage to 5 different running backs since that bye that I was talking about. And they also seem like a team that each week is just on the verge of completely coming apart, right? Jason Garrett's on the sideline looking like he's about to get fired any minute. I know Jerry Jones said he wasn't going to, but it looks like that. And I just wonder at this point, are we going to continue to see these weeks like we did against the Bears last week, where you think that they're going to win and they just completely fall apart? Chris, what about you? Are you a believer in the Rams this week?
I don't think so. And I believe in one guy in particular. So I actually prepped a whole bunch of stuff for this matchup going both ways. So I was looking at more on the whole season rather than just the last few games. But on the season, the Cowboys, they've actually given up the 7th fewest passing yards and the 10th fewest passing touchdowns with 17. So they're giving up barely more than 1 passing touchdown per game. Yeah, maybe a few bad weeks in a row recently, but still on the season, they've been really good. That said, they are dead last in interceptions. They only have 5 interceptions as a team on the season. So there's something that you can, kind of go with, Jared Goff, well, the Cowboys don't get any, they don't pick off the ball very often. When it comes to rushing, though, the Cowboys are 19th in the league in giving up rushing yards and 23rd in giving up rushing touchdowns. It's going to be a Todd Gurley day. It's got to be for the Rams. as a unit, the Cowboys, they are ninth fewest total yards in the season, but they can be run on. Now looking at the other side of the ball, the Rams have the 8th most total yards on the season, 12th most points scored, and 6th most passing yards, but they are 27th in passing touchdowns. They only have 15 on the season, 1 passing touchdown a game, but they do have the 6th most rushing touchdowns with 16. I know I just threw a bunch of stats out there.
You're a math professor.
But yeah, I had to look at some stuff. It's really to illustrate that I don't think the Rams wide receivers are going to have a huge day. I mean, you're probably still starting Cooper Kupp. And I don't know how you bench Woods after the last 2 weeks.
Right.
But the catches and yards are how they're producing. It's not the touchdowns. So like I said before, this is a Todd Gurley game. And if the Rams can get the lead, then they should feature Gurley since the Cowboys can be run on much easier than they're passed on. And the Rams should just use Todd Gurley to get the lead in the first place.
Yeah.
We also got Tyler Higbee there, too. He's had a couple good games here. So if Gerald Everett's going to be out, even Higbee also could be an option in that one as well. That's all for the video version of today's podcast. Big thanks to everybody for watching, and good luck in Week 15.
Said leave on time, my baby said leave on time.